Welcome back to PROUT Rev. We're continuing our video series on PROUT and police utilization, and in this video we'll be discussing the history of police brutality. And to speak on this subject is educator and proutist Amal Jacobson. Amal, thanks for being here.
Hi, Gustavo. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
So please talk to us about the history of police brutality.
When you hear politicians talking about law and order, a proutistic analysis would start with the question, whose law, whose order? You know, this phrase has been used for decades as a kind of racist dog whistling, okay? African Americans have been criminalized, on purpose by the United States government, and they've been at the front end, the police force, of a mass incarceration program. The war on drugs was basically a war against Black people, and in many cases, these police forces originally evolved out of, squads that were going around, trying to collect runaway slaves. And the entire legal framework in the United States of America, which is capitalistic, is by its nature designed to protect the rights of private property owners, okay? The entire United States Constitution is basically set up on how to protect people with property from those who don't have it, okay? And so any sort of criminal justice system that is going to come from that system is going to be a function of a racist capitalist system under the best of circumstances. And so when you're talking about police reform, I think it's important to remember that reform often doesn't actually change the status quo. It makes it perhaps slightly more humane. It tinkers around the edges, but reformation is basically a way to ensure that the system itself does not change. And if we are to believe that the system itself is by its nature racist, exploitative, capitalistic, and if you have a problem with that, then the problem is with the system. And so proutistic analysis of this ongoing history would be to point at the way that this is essentially about how the laws are meant to protect the rights of a few people, and often that is done on a classist basis or a racial basis. And you can see this having played out through all of American history, not just during the period of slavery, but in the Jim Crow era after that, and certainly in the war on crime, war on drugs era after that. And when you look at it, it is something that has been affected by all the political parties, okay? Bill Clinton and Joe Biden, these are architects of the mass incarceration program. And in many cases, they are totally unapologetic about it. And even if they are apologetic on the face, they do not want any sort of systemic change, okay? When companies like Amazon come out and say Black Lives Matter, this is a kind of performative wokeness. If Black and brown lives mattered to these corporations, then they wouldn't be engaged in union busting. They wouldn't be spending all of their energy trying to exploit their own workers to the most brutal, merciless way that they possibly can. Okay, and so what I would say is the essence of a proutistic analysis of this relationship is that real change has to be systemic. It can't be something superficial, just laid up on top. If you start talking about things like, for example, implicit bias training in police forces, or even, reallocation of resources, you're not fundamentally addressing the core issue. And the deepest part of the issue is that the legal system itself is a function of this capitalistic framework. And in the United States, that capitalistic framework is inextricably bound with racism by design. It was done on purpose. And if we want it to change, then we will have to create a new system on purpose and not just try to put some band-aids on top of this one.
Thank you so much, Amal. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for taking the time to join us.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
And thank you everybody else for watching. We'll see you all in the next part of this series on PROUT and police utilization. See you in the next video.